Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Absurd Talking Points podcast. It is I, Captain Red Shops, freshly clean shaven, unfortunately, along with the based cripple. Been a
Hello.
while since it's been a while since we've had a podcast. Been lazy, crazy news cycle, but today we will be talking about the unforeseen side effects of green energy and
Yeah.
how they produce. They've recently realized that it's not as good as we thought it was. So I'm going to start off by sort of explaining to Cody, I guess, that I recently discovered that turns out solar panels go bad after so long, and they produce a ton of like plastic waste. Like apparently, like the amount is absolutely insane.
Yes, and not only that, but the solar panels also have a limit as to how much solar they can retrieve. And so, for
Yes,
example, unless they're in fucking space, and even then, this is very highly unlikely because of the laws of physics, or was it thermodynamics? I don't remember which. Solar panels only produce at max. I think it was 30% of the sun's power.
yeah, they're not exactly efficient.
The
Yeah,
tent, the tent produce 100%.
yeah. Along with the fact that people say that why don't we just set them up in the deserts like everywhere, right? It's because
I'm sorry for cutting you off, but here's the problem if I do it in the desert. The hotter a solar panel is, the less efficient they are. So a
yes,
desert is the worst area. I think like the
that's
Arctic would be the best, but you don't really retrieve a lot of sunlight there. And I honestly like they're really only efficient for small bases or like outer space.
yeah. Because I know my family's actually got their hands on a few, and they don't seem very like good. I guess would be the word. Very efficient. On top of that, the Prius, the hybrid electric gas car or
Yeah,
whatever, is horrible for the environment. The lithium batteries and stuff like that, and like the manufacturing process produces a ton of pollution.
not to mention um if you combine like the amount of pollution you're making just for sort of electricity on top of just the gas it produces, it's almost, if not worse, than a fossil fuel tar.
I'm going to say it's going to be worse because of the amount of money you have to spend to actually make a hydroelectric or a electric vehicle, a hybrid.
Yeah,
It's insane. I always thought it was funny how we've come all this way from like the 1960s where we didn't like care about pollution or gas at all, and we have a Prius which is almost just as bad as like a 1960s like muscle car. Is I always like to compare the two because the muscle car is actually fun. It gets horrible gas mileage, but it's so much cheaper. It's way more fun, in my opinion.
well, here's the other problem. Electric engines or motors are less power efficient than a fueled motor.
Yeah, the combustion motor.
Yes.
I will say diesel. Diesel is a fantastic way to go. I love diesel is very good, very efficient. The I think diesel is a fairly clean, like in terms of fossil fuels. It's very clean. I think it's even funnier is how they want people seem to hate natural gas, even though natural gas is also very clean, relatively speaking.
Natural gas, like, I understand, like, Greta Thunberg, if you're watching this, fuck you. We can't turn off, we cannot turn off natural gas. If we turn
We
off
can't.
all natural gas right now, thousands will die from the winter.
Yeah, we need it for heating. nuclear energy is also really clean, especially with all, as far as we've come in nuclear technology. Very, very clean. Everyone seems to hate it because of
Yes.
nuclear waste, and I'm just like, if you just properly dispose of the nuclear waste, it's fine.
Yeah, and like I was saying to Clay before we started, we're actually very, very close to nuclear fusion, right? Or is it fission?
It's fusion.
Yeah,
It's fusion.
we're very, very close to nuclear fusion.
Which
And
is way cleaner. It's even cleaner than nuclear energy,
well,
nuclear fission.
nuclear fusion has always been the like holy grail of clean energy, and we're
I
like
don't think it's.
almost there.
I can't remember if it's a nuclear fusion or if it's just a fusion reactor. So I think fusion reactors rely on like hydrogen or something like that.
It's one of the two. I don't remember which off the top of my
I'm not, I'm sorry, I'm not a nuclear physicist.
head.
Let's see here. What's another like really bad? Oh, recycling is horrible. It's very inefficient.
Oh my
But
god, like recycled paper, it's useless. I've
it
written
really is.
I've written on recycled paper, like it's like the pencil doesn't matter how hard you push. It's like you're drawing on like foam.
It's really bad.
It's so
Tin
dark.
cans. Tin cans. They melt them down, and then they melt them down in order to like remake them. I guess I'm not 100% sure how the process goes, but I'm fairly certain that melting it down by like using something to melt it. Like I'm pretty sure they use like I don't know what they use. I don't know if it's coal or something like that. But it's not clean. It's recycling it. You reuse the can, but it's still a really dirty process to like reuse the can.
I think
You're
for
still
like
reusing its own pollution.
for metal, I don't think we have much of a choice, right? But
You have to have boundaries.
there's a very limited amount of metal in the world, so you can't just like make the tin and throw it into like garbage, right?
Oh, I know. I
But
don't. I.
for like
But like,
plastic, I would agree. Like,
yes, it's like recycling looks good on paper because you're not throwing it in a dump, but then you have to reduce a ton of pollution in order to melt it down. So it's not nearly as clean as everyone seems to think it is.
yeah,
I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying I don't think the technology is there yet.
no, it's not.
Let's see. What's another one that people seem to think is really like horrible? Combustion engines, like just standard fuel engines.
Yeah,
Technology's come so far in regards to like fossil fuels in the past. I'm 60 years,
hmm
70, 80 years. But I remember I used to always wonder this. So we have all this emissions, like hardware and software installed in cars to help reduce pollution, and like they have a bunch of emission standards they have to pass. So, which dramatically decreases the amount of it decreases fuel efficiency. But what I don't understand is how you have a less fuel efficient car with a bunch of emissions garbage, which makes it more expensive, which means less people can get it. I don't understand what the process is, what the process of thinking for that is, because if everyone drove a car that can get 90 miles to the gallon, that doesn't have all this emissions garbage on it,
hmm
so which is more affordable, which means that more people can buy a new car. It's more efficient than like a 30-year-old piece of junk that people like to drive around.
yeah.
I don't understand how out of the two, the preferred one is an expensive car that burns more fuel instead of a cheaper car that burns way less fuel.
I don't really know for me on that, but like I do sometimes wonder, right? Because I mean, I'll say it here, like, pol- pollution's bad. We all agree on it, and I mean, fossil fuels are, I mean, contributing to it somewhat. Um,
Yeah.
I saw something there where that was like, what's all contributing to like, global warming and shit. And I mean, a decent amount of it is like agriculture, but the big amount is power production. Like the
Yes.
major, like if you look at it on a pie, chart, right? The first bit amount, the biggest slice would be just producing power, and then agriculture, and then there's all the other shit.
Yeah.
But so really, what needs to be happening is focusing on like more efficient power sources. It's like nuclear energy. I'm all for it now. But
Yes. Nuclear energy is the future because it's so good. It's really really good.
yeah. But what always bothers me is that I wonder if like a lot of the pollution now isn't really because of like all the countries. I really wonder if it's from China. 'Cause China doesn't have
I mean,
China doesn't have regulations on this as far as I'm aware.
yeah, because what was it like? What the second China shut down, like the majority of like the pollution in the world just went away.
Yeah,
They're like, oh my god, what happened? It's like China shut down.
yeah.
Because China does not have regulation like the United States or any other country does. They don't have they don't have any sort of real standards.
Yeah.
I've seen videos of places like India, and they drive like whatever they can get their hands on, like really old, like piece of junk cars, and I'm like, that thing has no like pollution control whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm like, at the time I wonder about India as well, although I do know they have like standards, but like from the stuff I've seen, it's not the cleanest place to live,
No,
pollution
it's
wise.
not. The United States is probably one of the cleanest countries in the world. And that's saying something because how big it is and how many people live here.
Hmm.
You can it's it's insane. And I've driven a lot of new cars. They should not be getting like 20 like my mom on her like brand new like F-150, like 2016 like Ford F-150
Yeah.
gets like where I live gets like 18 miles to the gallon because we live in a rough area. But then you look at like Volkswagen, who like broke a bunch of emissions laws. You can get like 90 miles to a gallon in one of their sports cars.
Hmm.
In Porsches could get like 90 miles to the gallon because they broke emissions laws.
Hmm.
But it's like that's insane for a sports car. Can you imagine how much gas you could save driving like a little bitty sedan?
Well, the other thing is like a lot of like combustion engines now. I think you mentioned this earlier, but a lot of combustion engines now are less, much more fuel, not fuel. I'm sorry. Um, they produce much less carbon or pollution than even a
Yes.
um powered engine, electrical engine.
Yeah, because the amount of because the amount of pollution you have to create in order to make the electricity required to power an electric car, the amount of pollution you make in that process is more than if you were to just fill up your gas tank in a
Hmm.
gasoline powered car and drive. It's ridiculous.
Well,
And I think the reason they have so much emissions garbage is probably because it would kill big oil overnight.
yeah,
It really would because nobody would have to buy all this gas anymore. Because
yeah.
I know I've driven like I guess I'm gonna be honest, I've driven illegal cars, right? Where they just take like these like catalytic converters, like it's basically like sort of sponge that's in the exhaust that like absorbs a bunch of carbon.
Hmm.
Yeah, we would literally you cut it out, you cut it open, you throw it out, and it's just like just no exhaust whatsoever. It's just engine exhaust, no garbage in it, and you get your gas like your fuel efficiency just goes way up. You can immediately tell the difference. It's insane, and it's ridiculous.
Well, the other
Like,
problem is, they're I'm sorry to cut you off, but like the other problem is like for like God damn, I need to stop saying like and for pure green energy like wind and solar, they
mhm,
take up a lot of space,
they do.
and you know, sure you can argue that oh yeah, over time they'll become more and more energy efficient to where we'll require less of them. But there's a point where I'm like, if it requires this much space to produce this much electricity, is it worth it?
Have you ever actually seen a wind farm?
Yeah, I've been down to like Torpus and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen.
Like
It's
everywhere.
just you can everywhere. It's ridiculous. I know where we live, they were actually pushing to build wind turbines everywhere, and the people here pushed back and said we don't want that garbage because we're not going to get paid fairly because of it. Because here's the thing: if they want to build one of these big wind turbines on my property or a big solar farm, I am perfectly fine with that if they're willing to pay me fairly for it. The
Yeah,
problem is they don't. They try to screw you over every way you go.
but
So no.
the other thing is like, if they're putting a wind turbine on your property, you should have to pay less electricity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or
No,
just
here's
less,
like
less somewhere, in my opinion.
less in tax. I think if they gave significant tax write-offs for people who were like, if you were to install solar panels on your roof or something like that, and they give you tax write-off every year, I would immediately switch over to solar energy because I hate paying taxes. I
Yeah,
hate giving my taxes.
yeah, I talked about
Because
this a lot with you.
yeah, it's hilarious how if you just make people pay if you make people pay less in taxes, everything gets better.
hmm And like, I'm not
Like,
even saying like green energy is fully bad, because I think like in my ideal world, it would be a mixture of like pure green, nuclear, and probably some carbon, right?
yes,
And
yes,
like I think green energy, like solar, should be where there are a bunch of houses, right? Have every roof have a solar panel on, right?
yes.
But not like let's say this huge plot of land and just hope for the best.
Yeah, no, I think that's ridiculous. You cannot industrialize something like that. Not yet, not with our technology.
Well, it's not even just
If you were to leave it in the hands of the individual residents to just use it to power their own homes and save money, I think it'd be a great investment.
yeah.
I think
And
if you if you were to pay if people had to pay less in taxes, if you encourage people to invest in this long term like I guess I don't know how to I guess plan. I can't come up with a word off right at the moment. But if
investment,
you were to convince people, yeah, in a long term investment, in which you're going to save a bunch of money on electricity, and you gave them tax write offs, people would probably be switching to solar panels really quickly.
yes.
But they don't want to do that for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand what the problem is.
I really don't think they care. I don't think they do.
They probably don't.
Um, and just like I, I've heard that wind turbines are very loud when you're right close to them.
I've been near them. Yeah, they're not horrible, but I guess you can notice it.
hmm
But they're not horrible.
Yeah. Like I don't know. Like yeah.
They are massive though, and I think we need to start investing in green energy, but it's not at the point to where it is an effective long-term solution.
But the problem with both solar and wind, there's only so far they can be efficient. Wind turbines require wind to be near, which is why they're all placed around the coast, right?
Yeah, because
Solar
wind.
panels require for sun to be here. So if you have solar panels in like Seattle, there's no point. Like
Yeah,
they're
always
not
cloudy.
they're not producing enough to like do anything. It's like yeah, you can get some solar energy from like a cloudy sky, but you're not getting a whole lot. It's not
It's
that it
not
made
worth it.
it's not that it made a bit of a difference. The other problem is like by the law of thermodynamics. I think it's thermodynamics. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me in the comments if that's the wrong law of physics. I'm not a physics major, but solar is only goes so far. It's only be so efficient.
Yeah, you're gonna lose some of the electricity through heat.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how advanced we get in solar, unless somehow we find some brand new fucking like wonder material that absorbs solar. We're not that ever get to like even 50% of solar energy potential.
That and with solar energy, you have to remember that a lot of the atmosphere absorbs the sun,
Yeah,
the sun's radiation. That's why in space, solar panels are so efficient because there's no air to stop most of
yes.
the sun's light to come through.
Yes, what we need to make solar more efficient is to basically build a Dyson sphere, which if I may be confusing this with another um, planetary thing, but I believe the Dyson sphere is you basically build a giant sphere around the sun of solar
Yeah, that's what
panels.
it is. That's the Dyson. That's the Dyson sphere.
But it is impossible to its sense. We need more than one planet to build one. So what I
Yeah.
propose, right, is
Hmm.
for the Dyson sphere, it's almost impossible. And it's not even worth it at that point.
It really isn't.
What I propose is we build like giant planes that orbit the Earth, right? Not like
Hmm.
huge for the planes, but decent moderate sizes, right?
Hmm.
And you have this wireless electricity does exist. You have this
It does.
you have these pylons that are around the Earth, right? So like
Hmm.
maybe like the most optimal place for these are all on the equator.
No, it'd probably be more close. It'd probably be more like the North and South poles.
Really?
Mm.
Why do you say that?
Uh, um, not sure. I feel like the magnetic field probably has something to do with it.
I don't think it does.
I
I
don't
could be
know.
wrong. I'm not a physicist.
I'm not an expert.
I'm not. I'm not an
I'm just,
astronomer.
I'm just making an educated guess.
But the reason I say the equator, right, is because obviously the equator has the most direct sunlight from the sun,
Correct. Correct. Correct.
and so I imagine like these giant pylons. I don't know what they look like, but they'd be like giant fucking pylons that sit from the ground all along the equator, and there's like whenever a solar panel goes above one, just shoots fucking electricity at it, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be a good, at least in my head. I could be wrong. What you do
You know, be even
solar?
more efficient. You know, be even more efficient than that though.
What?
If we would just find a way to harvest lightning as an electricity source.
I think we do.
I don't think we do because last I checked, I think they decided that lightning was like really hard to harness because the amount of sheer like just power it creates. Don't have any way to handle it yet.
Hmm. I mean, I could be wrong. Like we're not. We don't have a browser open for all this, so I'm not like
No,
actively
we're
fact
just
checking.
talking.
But
We're literally just
I
talking.
do think lightning rods do harvest some electricity, but I could be very wrong on that.
I'm not 100% sure either. All I know is that lightning creates a crap ton of power. I don't know why we haven't just found a way to just power everything with lightning yet.
Yeah.
Like so, it's like the government just has its fingers in everything. It's ruining all of it. So just give me my tax write off for my solar panels, bro. That's all I want.
Yes.
That and solar panels are too expensive. They're way too expensive
Yeah.
to have a chance of being purchased by your average person.
Oh, they're so expensive. I've looked at them and it's like not even worth it.
There's no point to having green energy if your average person can't even afford to buy it. There's no point.
Hmm. I I said like it doesn't need to be. It's the way the world and fucking fat dude Red Thunberg. Um.
Greta von Doomsburg.
Yes. Um. You can't do 100%. It's impossible.
It really is impossible.
Like I'm sorry, but the amount of land required to do it will just make it like impossible. And just the amount of maintenance for each solar panel and each wind turbine and each dam, which I don't have any problems with dams besides them like disrupting habitats.
Oh, I know, but Hoover Dam powers Las Vegas.
Yeah. So
It's insane how much power they can produce.
yeah, it's possible. I said like it needs to be a mixture. It can't just be 100% light. And I think people should really take notes from California.
Yeah.
To let you know more about this so detailed to explain.
California tried forcing the power industries to go completely green, and in doing so, the power industries, the electrical industries, sort of moved all their finances from like whatever they had going to pure solar and wind energy. And the process was so expensive that they completely neglected their entire power grids. So they have like power grids that are over a century old. Like they have power lines that are just short circuiting everywhere that are over 100 years old that they just don't bother fixing because they don't have the time or the resources to do it because they're so focused on solar energy because the process is so expensive. So California effectively destroyed its power grids and its power companies, and now it's experiencing rolling blackouts because they try to go 100% green.
Yeah, and then I can't imagine what it'll be like in like November and December when like there is basically no solar. It's gonna be bad.
The irony is California is apparently one of the richest state in the United States, and it's a dump. Uh, but no, yeah, no. California is a really sick testing ground for all this garbage that they're trying to force on everyone else.
People like society and government should really be taking notes from California of what not to do.
Yeah, and then they're all coming to Texas, so Texas is gonna be ruined in a few years.
Yeah,
Woo!
not looking forward to that. If you're from California and you're not, if you're from California or Washington, you've learned your ways from California, right in the comments.
Like I said, whenever I see anyone from California, I just want to look at them and be like, I hope you left your bad ideas behind.
Yes.
It just, ugh. People think green energy is the future, but they don't take into account all the cons of it. You know?
Well, they sold it to us, and stools. Think about it. You didn't hear like the downsides of solar panels. You didn't hear that they can only that scientifically they can only go so high.
Yeah.
You didn't hear
tell you
this.
about the downsides of it.
You just heard, oh, green energy is good.
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
So I mean, part of this is people just being stupid, and the other part of it is the stool system.
Like I said, like I said, the big oil companies probably have their fingers in it, because, like I said, didn't get like 100 miles to the gallon, they'd be killed. They would lose so much money.
I don't feel like big oil would be in this. I think if anything, they'd be trying to dissuade this. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they're not behind the reason nobody trusts nuclear energy. I wouldn't be surprised about that.
But what I'm saying, I was going back to the car manufacturing industry. It's like you get a whole 30 miles to the gallon, all this garbage that makes the cars dummy expensive, or you can just get 90 miles to the gallon for a cheaper vehicle, so you burn less fuel overall. I don't understand. We have the technology, but it's being hindered by green energies, but it's being hindered by a bunch of anti-pollution junk.
It's being hindered by Greta Thunberg.
No, it's Doomsburg. It's Doomsburg.
So
none of it matters though, because we're all gonna be dead in 10 years anyway. So.
And I mean, I harp on this a lot, but like the biggest problem in my opinion is that no one's willing to talk about it.
That's the problem.
It's just either you're for it or you're against it, and there's no discussion. As we're having
There's no discussion anymore. All I know is that the second that they say that they're going to reduce taxes, I'm building a big ass wind turbine, and I'm building a bunch of solar panels on my roof, I'm gonna be very happy. But I need some incentives besides you help the environment because your average American is not gonna do that.
Yes.
And if you really want to fix all the pollution in the world, go over to China, and good luck, because you're probably not gonna come back.
Yeah, China actually needs to be pushed a little bit on this, like, goddamn.
Yeah, but we all know the UN will never touch him because China owns everyone now.
Yeah. And with that, we're out of time for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If
Yes,
you'd like to contribute to the discussion, leave it in the comments. Like,
and
share, subscribe.
remember, Adam loves you all. A little Fallout reference there before we head out.